Buckeyes meet the challenge, overcome adversity, and win their biggest game of the year. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, with your instant analysis of Ohio State's 28-17 win over Penn State at the Shoe. Of course, like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Lock it in for the remainder of the season. We will cover college football like no one else. Of course, this was the biggest game in the Big Ten this year, as it has been generally for the past 4 seasons. Penn State losing nail-biters to the Buckeyes, going up by 2 and 3 scores the past 2 years, and then falling in the fourth quarter, 39-38 and 27-26. This one took on a bit of a different theme as Penn State fell behind and battled back. All right. One key note going into the game was the health of game-changing, game-breaker KJ Hamler for Penn State. Hobbled and questionable coming into the game. We learned just prior to kickoff that he would give it a go. KJ Hamler, not necessarily much of a factor, but he looked ready to play. 3 catches, 45 yards, and a long play of 22 yards as the Buckeyes pass rush made his presence on the field diminished. Definitely, because they just couldn't get the ball to him downfield. All right, the Buckeyes came out with a big stop. After one Penn State first down, the defense looked like it has the entire season for Ohio State, dominant. And that theme would generally continue aside from one Penn State drive in the third quarter. Buckeyes get the ball and they march right down the field. Justin Fields converted 2 third and longs by just simply going back to pass, watching the pocket break down, finding his gap, and taking off. And on 2 of those plays, he juked a defender in open field space. So just between the power, the instincts of finding the hole in the pocket, and then the elusiveness that he has in the open field, too much for the Penn State defense in key critical situations in this game. Justin Fields, again, converting 2 third and longs with his legs. And that led to a touchdown to make it 7-0 as Fields scored. 21 carries, 68 yards. And, of course, because of the sack yardage total counting against quarterbacks in the rushing game, that not necessarily accurate. Fields was sacked a number of times in the second half, which took away rushing yardage from him. He was more effective than the 68 yards would indicate. All right, the Buckeyes defense, again, the pass rush in particular. Chase Young, of course, front and center, was devastating in this game. Penn State tried to take him on. The matchup between the Penn State left tackle, who's a pretty good player, and Chase Young was highlighted by a number of people, including our coverage in 2 separate preview videos. But it was actually Chase Young lining up on the other side of the defense and taking on the right tackle that proved to be another mismatch for the Buckeyes in this one. And the Ohio State pass rush, not just Chase Young, but across the board, devastating most of the time in this game. Buckeyes put together another drive. The second time they had the ball, came that close to making it 14-0, but Justin Fields dived into the end zone, forced a fumble by Lamont Wade, who was all over the field. Lamont Wade had a tremendous game for the Nittany Lions, and he was where the ball was most of the time in this one, forced the fumble and saved a touchdown for Penn State, which would prove to keep this one tighter than it should have been. Cam Brown with the end zone fumble recovery as Penn State kept it at 7-0. J.K. Dobbins was a workhorse in this game. We'll talk about it throughout this video, but there was a bad holding call against Thayer Munford on Yatir Gross-Matos. And then Matos had a sack on the ensuing play, and that really halted the next Ohio State drive. It was a bit of a ticky-tack call, and also I hate to see penalties when they don't involve the play in particular. J.K. Dobbins had already hit the hole, was sprinting. He was a couple of yards past the defender at that point. The call, I don't mind the calls being made when they don't impact the play because the referees just need to make the correct calls, but that was a bit ticky-tack. Justin Fields, though, on a 4th and 5 play, designed quarterback run as Ohio State was pretty conservative in this game. They took their handful of shots downfield, but once they established that their run game and defense would be overwhelmingly effective. They did go conservative in this one. 4th and 5 play, Justin Fields, design quarterback run, led to the J.K. Dobbins touchdown on 4th and goal from the 1 as the Buckeyes played power football and led it at that point. Again, 14-0. The Fields fumble into the end zone. It could have been 21-0, but the Penn State Nittany Lions did make it to half with their defense playing some decent football, of course, making the one big play at the goal line to keep it close at 14-0. But Penn State's 5 drives in the first half, all punts, and most of them 3 and outs, as the Buckeyes dominated defensively, giving up just 64 yards in the first half. Buckeyes came out first drive of the second half, and it was more Justin Fields, J.K. Dobbins, back and forth. They dominate the football. They handle it on just about every play. Fields with a beautiful dime to K.J. Hill as K.J. burned his defender, got the couple steps on him. The safety was a little bit late, and Justin Fields threw a perfect dime, rainbow shot over the top, 21-0 Buckeyes. Penn State was reeling, obviously, the Buckeyes dominating on both sides of the ball, but things turned quickly. Sean Clifford knocked out of the game, had been ineffective, but to his defense, the pass rush was all over him. Enter Will Levis, redshirt freshman, recruited and signed in the 2018 class, 28th rated pro-style quarterback, so not an elite quarterback coming out of high school, but highly thought of coming out of Middletown, Connecticut. So Will Levis takes over, and he starts to run and get comfortable, and the offense starts to flow. He hit on his first pass attempt, which was key for him. He converted on a couple tough runs, a couple power runs, converted third downs into first downs, and then Journey Brown got loose on 2 plays. Journey Brown, 11 carries for 64 yards, has broken away from the rest of the pack of Penn State running backs. Ricky Slade, Noah Cain's been banged up a little bit, and of course Devin Ford's a capable back, but Penn State is loaded at the running back spot, but this guy is proven to be the best and the healthiest. Journey Brown, 2 really tough runs in which he shed tackles by Jashawn Cornell, Jordan Fuller at the goal line, also Javante Jean-Baptiste, and the broken tackles. And Journey Brown, again, had Penn State been playing from in front and been able to give him the ball, and that's been the strength of the Penn State offense during this season, has been K.J. Hamler, big plays downfield, Pat Freiermuth underneath, converting the third downs into first downs, and the run game. But Penn State playing from behind really couldn't impact the game with Journey Brown, and that was key. But Penn State, after gaining just 64 yards, at that point, 75-yard drive, started to get some life. Then they really got the momentum rolling as there was the forced fumble by Micah Parsons on the very first play from scrimmage by the Buckeyes on the next series. J.K. Dobbins coughed it up. Lamont Wade, we talked about him earlier. He jumped on the forced fumble, gets the fumble recovery at the Ohio State 11. So Penn State in prime real estate right there. Levis back in the ball game, hits Freiermuth down to the 1. They get the touchdown from Levis, whose running proved to be effective, and suddenly we've got a 21-14 game after the Buckeyes had dominated and controlled the game. Penn State scores 2 touchdowns in 25 seconds. It's 21-14. Justin Fields with another fumble, and he's got the bad left hand. That might have factored into the fumble. Penn State jumps on it again. This time the Buckeye defense was up to the challenge, and this would be the story of the game. Before the Penn State touchdown drive of 75 yards and after it, the Ohio State defense just clamped down. The pass rush was devastating. They just gave up the field goal in that one at 21-17. And again, Chase Young was front and center, but the entire defense relentless in this one. All right. J.K., the workhorse in this one, as the rain continued and increased, 36 carries for $157. And then Justin Fields finished off this particular drive to answer Penn State at 21-17 with a beautiful pass to Chris Olave, who outfought the 2 defenders for the football, hung on to it despite getting sandwiched in the end zone. And this was the clincher, 28-17 Buckeyes at that point, early fourth quarter. Penn State back on the move, converted a few first downs, and then Justin Hilliard with a nice play and playing Freiermuth in coverage right across the middle. Short pass, picks it off. Justin Hilliard stops that drive. Buckeyes got very conservative at this point, but you can understand it. Bad weather conditions, J.K. Dobbins, the workhorse on the day, and the defense, despite the one drive that Penn State put together, was lights out. And they've got an elite defense, maybe the best defense in college football. Why not go conservative, protect the lead, 28-17. Penn State's last gasp came after a 4th and 5 play in which Ryan Day elected to not kick the field goal. The Buckeyes had driven down to the Penn State 28. Long field goal, a bit of a risk, about 2.5 minutes left to play. So Justin Fields ran it, didn't get it, so Penn State gets the football. There came a hush over the stadium because Justin Fields stayed on the turf. It appeared as though his left leg was trapped under the defender. He did jog off the field. He appears to be fine. Levis could not convert anything, do anything with the football. The Buckeyes just there were some issues in addition to the Ohio State pass rush being devastating. Some issues once Levis entered the game with the snap count. The offensive line and the center in particular were not on the same page a number of times with Levis, and that proved to be costly for Penn State as they were playing from behind. Buckeyes win at 28-17. So it was basically an Ohio State domination of the first half, a flurry of points and yardage, and Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins, and the defense being just lights out. They give up the 175-yard drive as Penn State comes out first drive offensively in the second half. Credit them battling back, get back in the game at 21-7. Buckeyes hand them a few gifts, creates a flurry of momentum for Penn State. They get within 21-17, and then suddenly the Buckeyes put the hammer down, put a halt to it, and reverted to the first half. And the fourth quarter looked like the first half as the Buckeyes dominated on both sides of the ball, specifically on defense. Ohio State's number 2 in the country. They're 11-0. They go to Ann Arbor for the game on Saturday against an improved Michigan squad that, of course, outplayed this Penn State team in the second half to make it a game and rolled Notre Dame a few weeks later. They've got a date with Indiana that's kicking off right now. Penn State falls to 9-2. They have the scrimmage win over Rutgers next week. They should finish at 10-2, 7-2 in the Big Ten, but 10-2 overall puts them in prime position to possibly be selected for a New Year's Six bowl game. Your thoughts on the Buckeyes and Penn State, the differences between these two teams, the separation between Ohio State possibly and the rest of the Big Ten, as we see Ohio State playing a cushy schedule early with the one difficult game against Wisconsin, and now they're potentially playing 5 killer games in a row. Penn State, Michigan, the Big Ten championship game, and possibly playoff games beyond that. Your thoughts on the Buckeyes right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe right here.